A man who dares to waste 1 hour of time has not discovered the value of life. These words came from Charles Darwin, a quiet man who changed the way people understand the living world. Long before his name became famous, he was simply a curious boy who loved picking up bugs, feathers, shells, and strange little stones. Most people saw these as ordinary things, but Charles believed they were small clues waiting to tell a bigger story. He did not know that those tiny discoveries would one day change science forever. His journey reminds us that sometimes the greatest ideas begin with the smallest questions. Charles Darwin was born in England in the city of Shrewsbury in the early 1800s. England was a country with green fields, old stone houses, busy towns, and many rivers. People traveled by horse, boat, or carriage because cars did not yet exist. Life moved more slowly than it does today, and children spent much of their time outside. Charles grew up in a warm family home with his brothers and sisters. His father was a doctor who wanted his son to have a good future. His mother loved her children, but she died when Charles was still very young. Because of this, he remembered only a few things about her as he grew older. As a little boy, Charles loved nature more than almost anything else. He enjoyed walking through fields, climbing hills, and looking closely at flowers and trees. He picked up shells, feathers, rocks, and insects wherever he went. To many people, these were only small objects, but to Charles they were full of wonder. He liked watching birds fly across the sky and insects crawl through the grass. He wanted to know why every living thing looked a little different. Even simple questions stayed in his mind for a long time. His deep curiosity quietly became one of his greatest gifts. School was not always easy for Charles. He did not enjoy learning by only reading old books or repeating facts again and again. He learned best by seeing real things with his own eyes. Many teachers did not understand this, and some believed he was not a very special student. His father worried about him as the years passed. He thought Charles spent too much time collecting bugs and walking outdoors. He hoped his son would choose a serious job instead. Like many parents, he wanted Charles to have a safe and successful life. At first, Charles studied medicine because his father wanted him to become a doctor. He went to a university where students learned how to care for sick people. But Charles found it very hard to watch medical operations because there was no modern medicine to stop pain. The experience made him realize that being a doctor was not the right path for him. Later, he went to another university to prepare for life as a church minister. A minister was someone who helped people through faith and served a local church. While studying there, Charles still spent much of his free time outdoors. His love for plants, birds, rocks, and insects only grew stronger. One teacher noticed how interested Charles was in nature. Instead of laughing at his questions, the teacher encouraged him to keep learning. This simple support became very important. Sometimes one person who believes in us can quietly change our whole future. Not long afterward, an amazing chance appeared. Charles was invited to join a long sea voyage on a ship called HMS Beagle. The ship planned to travel around many parts of the world to study coastlines and make maps. Charles would not be the captain or the sailor. His job was to observe nature and collect information. His father first said no. A journey across the oceans was long, dangerous, and uncertain. Ships faced storms, sickness, and many other risks. It seemed much safer for Charles to stay at home. Luckily, other family members helped change his father's mind. After many talks, his father finally agreed. That one decision opened the door to a life that Charles could never have imagined. Sometimes a single yes can quietly change everything. The journey began when Charles was still a young man. The sea was often rough, and he became seasick many times. Even so, he refused to give up. His strong curiosity was greater than his discomfort. As the ship traveled, Charles visited many different lands. He walked through forests filled with strange plants. He climbed mountains and crossed wide open fields. Everywhere he looked, he saw life in new and surprising forms. He carefully wrote notes every day. He collected rocks, plants, bones, insects, and many other natural objects. He wanted to remember every detail because he knew that small facts could become important later. His notebook slowly filled with careful observations. Charles also met people from different cultures. Every place had its own way of living, speaking, and working. Seeing these different communities helped him understand how large and varied the world really was. Travel opened both his eyes and his mind. One of the places that deeply interested him was the Galápagos Islands. These islands lie far out in the Pacific Ocean near South America. Because they were separated by the sea, many animals there had developed in unusual ways. The islands felt like a living outdoor classroom. Charles noticed that some birds looked very similar, but had different kinds of beaks. A beak is the hard mouth of a bird. Some beaks were long and thin, while others were short and strong. He wondered why birds living on nearby islands were not exactly the same. He also studied giant tortoises. A tortoise is a large land animal with a hard shell. Some tortoises looked different depending on which island they lived on. These differences stayed in Charles's thoughts long after he left the islands. At first, he did not know what these discoveries meant. He simply kept asking questions and writing careful notes. Good science often begins this way. Real understanding usually grows slowly, not all at once. After almost 5 years, Charles finally returned to England. He carried home many boxes filled with samples and notebooks. Friends and scientists wanted to hear about his journey. They knew he had seen places that very few people had ever visited. Charles did not rush to share big ideas. Instead, he spent many years studying everything he had collected. He compared bones, plants, birds, insects, and fossils. A fossil is the hard remains or mark of a plant or animal that lived long ago. As he studied, one important idea slowly became clearer. He began to think that living things can change over very long periods of time. Small changes happen little by little across many generations. Over a great length of time, these changes can lead to new kinds of living things. He also believed that nature plays a part in this process. Animals and plants with helpful features often have a better chance to live and have young. Those helpful features may then be passed to the next generation. Today, this idea is called natural selection. Natural selection sounds like a difficult phrase, but the basic idea is simple. In nature, not every living thing survives. Those that are better suited to their surroundings often have a greater chance to continue their family line. Over many generations, small changes can slowly become larger changes. These ideas were very different from what many people believed at that time. Some people welcomed Charles's careful work. Others strongly disagreed with him. New ideas often take time before many people are ready to understand them. Charles knew that people would ask hard questions. Because of this, he worked very carefully before sharing his ideas. He checked his notes again and again. He wanted his work to be honest and supported by evidence. Finally, he published a book called On the Origin of Species. The book explained his ideas about how living things change over long periods of time. It became one of the most important science books in history. People around the world began reading and discussing it. The book did not end every argument. Even today, people continue to discuss some questions about life, nature, and history from different viewpoints. Scientists, however, widely accept evolution by natural selection as the best explanation for the diversity of life based on a large amount of evidence collected over many years. Charles's careful observations became an important part of modern biology. Even after becoming famous, Charles lived a quiet life. He spent much of his time at his home in the English countryside. His garden became another place for learning. Many of his experiments happened among simple plants and flowers. He watched worms move through the soil. He studied climbing plants as they reached toward the light. He even looked closely at tiny flowers and seeds. His curiosity never became smaller as he grew older. Charles was not trying to become a hero. He simply wanted to understand the natural world a little better. Day after day, he kept observing, writing, and thinking. His patient work showed that careful attention can lead to great discoveries. His family remained an important part of his life. He married Emma Wedgwood, and together they raised several children. Their home was often filled with learning, reading, and quiet conversation. Although Charles worked hard, he also cared deeply for his family. His health was not always good. For many years, he often felt weak and tired. Historians are still not completely sure what illness caused these problems. Even so, he continued working whenever he was able, showing quiet strength through difficult days. As the years passed, more scientists built on his work. They discovered new evidence from fossils, animals, plants, and later from the study of genes. A gene is a tiny piece of information inside living things that helps pass features from parents to children. These discoveries helped people understand life even more clearly. Today, Charles Darwin is remembered around the world. Schools teach about his ideas because they changed the way many scientists study nature. Museums display some of the objects he collected during his famous voyage. His notebooks still remind people that careful observation is one of the greatest tools in science. His life also teaches another lesson. Great discoveries do not always begin with loud voices or grand plans. Sometimes they begin with one child who looks closely at a bird, a flower, or a small insect and asks, "Why?" That simple question can open the door to a lifetime of learning. Charles never claimed to know every answer. Instead, he believed that learning is a journey that continues throughout life. He accepted that new evidence could improve our understanding. This humble way of thinking helped science grow stronger. When we remember Charles Darwin today, we remember more than a famous scientist. We remember a patient observer who trusted careful study more than quick guesses. His life reminds us that curiosity, honesty, and steady effort can change how people see the world. And perhaps the greatest adventure any person can begin is simply looking at the world with open eyes and a willing heart.